No, no problem.
How's it going, everybody? Right now I am in London at Leicester Square, and there is a group of people which looks to be several hundred, and they're here in support of Count Dankula, who was just sentenced in the Nazi pug trial. So far, I believe what we've heard is an £800 fine and no jail time. So, if you are just tuning in, the plan is to march in silence to Downing Street. There's going to be several speeches made after that, and I guess we're going to see a lot of walking and not a lot of talking once they get things started. For now, there's a lot of conversations. You can see we've got Gadsden flags, we've got the Union Jack, we've got the Kekistan flags. Do you guys, you know what that one is?
There are police in this area. Be careful what you say. You do not want to say anything that the police might be able to interpret, might upset anybody or might alarm somebody. Don't say anything that will ever, just be nice to everyone. Just say we love you all. I love you all.
So we have a few police officers up against this tree, and one of them is filming.
This geezer here. Now what is going on with this geezer? What exactly is going on? So what on earth are you doing? What on earth?
One of the cops is actually laughing.
A bunch of people who've gathered to try and stop you people imprisoning us for making jokes which someone might think are bad.
Okay, we're just getting the stream started, so what I want to say is if you're just tuning in, you can help out the stream by giving a thumbs up, comment below, join the conversation, and there's also the option for a super chat if you want to support my work and my stream, and if you want to get your comment to appear above everyone else's. You can use the super chat feature, which if you give at least $5 will put your comment in a special bar that people can click and see, and it makes it easier for me to find as well. And as a fountain, I'm getting wet.
They just want to be able to say things. But seriously, are you looking for criminals among this lot? Have you found anything yet? I mean, seriously, what the hell are you doing? You're just here today, that's what you're doing. Alright. Well, now listen, I, unfortunately, have made the mistake of paying towards
I'm going to try and stay away from the front of the megaphone.
I want to know what on earth I've paid for. Why have I paid for someone to come here and record this? They don't like answering questions. They like asking them. They love asking the questions, don't they? But when you got any difficult questions, no comment. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. We're just here filming. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is very suspicious behaviour. Do you think this is suspicious behaviour, guys? It's very suspicious. So suspicious that if any one of these people, especially my friends, would kind of dress up like you and do this, I'd be really concerned about them.
All right. Yeah, I know,
what
right?
Actually being paid for. From our money, you're being paid to spy on us.
Really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Who are trying to take away our rights.
There's a fountain right here that I'm trying to strategically avoid. I'm gonna move away from the water before I get drenched. But so right now, look on what's going on back there that I don't want to float around too much is you have a man bullhorning because there are police here who are filming this protest, and this is a normal tactic used by police departments in a lot of places. I don't know, I don't want to start naming cities and tell you exactly where, but they do it in New York, they do it in California, various cities in California. In New York, it's called TARU. I believe it's called the Tactical Assistance Research Unit, something like that. You can Google it. But basically, what they do in the US, I don't know if it's for the same reason, but they're filming for evidence. So they film all of this, and they get pictures of faces, they know who is who, and they can put that in their archive. If something happens and someone gets arrested, they have evidence of it. So, you know, one of the big battles, or I should say tactics, in this fight between the government and protesters and other factions is to film each other. The police certainly do the same thing as everybody else. And so now you've got a large group have crowded around the police and are filming them.
So you're saying that the reason this guy's filming, nothing sinister about anything. You always film every big gathering of every sort of people, right? Is that right? Do you film every gathering and like someone comes here, like I don't know. Do you have people outside St Mary's where she is filming, making sure that you can send back to the control room?
If you're filming so the control room knows what's going on, why aren't you using a streaming camera?
It is a streaming camera. That
streaming
live
live
streams.
right now, then.
That
Oh, okay.
live streams back to the control room.
Fair enough. I thought it was, you were taking videos and then walking it back.
It is a live stream, so they would have been watching us now have this conversation, and because sometimes at protests and things like that.
Can I ask? There's some,
I'm kind of answering one question, so I'm either answering the question one at a time. It's going to be a
The
bit
police
more
aren't necessarily here
So
unless
sometimes in protests and things like that,
Well, they're
when
here
people are
in
very
case
passionate
they
about a
turn.
cause and it looks really aggressive and actually we're on the ground saying no, it's fine.
Which
they're just
isn't
really
the worst
passionate
thing in
about
the
their
world.
cause.
I don't mind
So
the
you can't
police being
police by
I don't
CCTV.
know.
It's our
You don't get an
security team.
accurate reflection of
Can I
what's
ask?
going on, do you? So that's why we have police on the ground as well. And in these blue bibs, we deal with protests day in, day out, particularly myself and the colleagues that I'm posted with. We full time do work protests and work with organisers and things like that.
Can I ask? There's some certain allegations going around that police allegations going around from our community that the police are working with Hope Not Hate, which are prided as a far left organisation that go with Antifa as well, and they're sending information. Like at the there was a football lads arena in Birmingham, and one witness saw one Antifa shaking hands with a policeman.
Yeah.
And they were
that means
exchanging
nothing.
information.
That's not uncommon. That's not
see?
uncommon. If we are working with an organiser and we work with all sorts of organisers, it doesn't mean that we share their viewpoint. It just means that we're working with them
I just want to make that clear
cooperate,
because
to have
there's
cooperation
this
on the day,
notion,
and that
there's
is
this notion
the
out there. I just want to make sure whether the allegation that if the police are working with Antifa, I don't want. That would sound really fucking crazy to me if that's considered true.
The police are working with much more sinister organisation called the government. What are you worried about working with Antifa? These guys are policing completely immoral laws, and she will do what she's told, and they're all at it.
A context of a particular demonstration, for argument's sake, on just last week we deal with the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign all of the time, and I know their organisers really, really well, and I shook hands with them. But equally, from the Israeli side, I know their organiser really, really well, and shook hands with him on the same day at the same location, because we were, everybody has the democratic right to protest and to demonstrate about their cause, and we are here to
We
safeguard
just
that,
don't
and
want
that
to.
is
We
all.
don't want to live in a society where the police are being biased to one side
Absolutely
and they're
not.
prosecuting the
No, and
other.
pardon? No, because we know he's in Scotland. So that's not. We know he's in Scotland.
We have a fine.
Have you got that on the streaming camera?
Have you got a license for that?
I've got a license for shaking your hand.
Have you got an unregistered butter knife on you?
So yeah, that's the only reason they film. Anyway, going back to the original point. But we do tend to film large demonstrations, not necessarily congregations, as you said, like tourist congregations and things like that. No, but
Right.
but we do
And
have
let me
those.
ask you, if I'm Jewish, right? If someone would say to me, "Gas the Jews, ha ha ha," Zig Heil, yeah?
Yeah.
If someone did that, what would you do? Yeah? I went up to that person, right, and I said, "You give me your details, or I'm gonna kidnap you." Oh, wait. And he gave me his details. Actually, he wouldn't give me his details, so I took his hand, and I put him in some handcuffs that he had on me, and I took him into a van, right, and I took him into a cell. You can call it what you like. I just did that. Imagine I just did that. You can call that what you like, but imagine you saw me do that. Right? Took him back to my mates, locked him up in a little room, frightened him up a little bit. Yeah, then came out and said, "You've got to come back here in 4 weeks' time. We're going to talk to you about that, and then we're going to lock you up for 6 months. I'm going to lock you up with my mate for 6 months." Yeah. If I did that, what would you regard me as? What would you regard me as? Please answer the question.
I'm not sure.
I'll give you an answer.
I'm not sure.
Psychopathic, dangerous nutcase, right? Perfectly reasonable man, yeah? Because he said gas the Jews and got his dog to do a zig high, right? So, what would you think I was? Reasonable, psychopathic and dangerous, lovely, perfectly normal and okay. Which are those?
To be fair, I think that's a bit too controversial.
Okay,
Comment on
everyone
that.
here, if I did that to this man for doing that, would you regard me as a dangerous, crazy man that should be probably taken away and locked up? That he can't deal with someone saying some words with him, whatever they are, right?
Yeah. But if
They would regard me as a psychopath. Therefore, what you are doing is acting like a psychopath on behalf of the
problem-
police. That's what you are part of, because the law is psychopathic.
The problem is, right, these far left these far left protest groups, I know for years, ever since during the late 2000s and throughout the 90s, they've been pressuring the police, like people like you, to take action against people that they deem as hate speech. And it's thanks, but let's be honest. But yeah, of course, I know that. But you've got to admit, if it wasn't for those people, you wouldn't be in the position where you would arrest people on certain speech, would
I
you?
don't think that's necessary. The police do have to take hate crimes.
Well, there is records and evidence of certain far left groups corrupting with the government and the law. And since you're part of the main branch of the law, if the government makes a certain law saying, like, we're going to police on speech, you have to act accordingly because you're the lapdogs, basically. You can't protest and say...
When you say that all crimes are hate crimes,
Pardon?
when you say that all crimes are hate crimes,
Hate crime is a specific term given to...
but if I was to rob a bank, or if I was to, kill someone, would you consider that as like a nice murder or a well-meaning
I
robbery?
know what you're saying, and there is some validity in what you're saying, but the term hate crime is given to specific types of offences, isn't it?
Yeah, funny that. Yeah.
I'm wondering, is
Pardon?
Oh, I see.
Why does it apply to Why does it need to be violent?
Because there's no violence, there's no crime. Well, there shouldn't be.
That's not true.
Obviously, I know.
But unless you're like actually advocating for violence.
If Count Dankula was saying, right, I'm going to find every Jew and gas them, I can understand why you'd be prosecuted. But he said that as just a temporary joke. So if I just say gas the Jews temporarily, I don't mean I'm going to go out there and gas real Jewish citizens of the UK. I'm not going to do that. But there's a fine line.
I think it's making light of something that was a very serious issue, isn't it?
does the media have an exception to publish the video in full without repercussion?
Pardon?
Several media companies published the same video in its entirety and use the same language without penalty. Is that allowed in the UK?
I don't know. That's the honest answer. I don't know. If you don't mind, I've got to find my colleague because I haven't seen him.
That's fine. Thank you.
And I think that
So for those that are watching, I'll explain what I asked. In one of my videos, I highlight that, I'm trying to figure out what the context of the crime that Dankula committed was. Was it the fact that he said this in his private home? Was it a combination of saying it in his private home, making a video, and uploading it? Was it the fact that he said it so many times? The conundrum for me arises when several media companies published the exact same video in full on their own servers. So I believe if you watch my video, there's a few examples. I believe it was The Sun, The Mirror, and The Daily Mail. The Sun and The Mirror, I could be wrong, so forgive me if I'm incorrectly stating the companies, but these companies took the entire video that Dankula made and published it to a much, much larger audience than Dankula had initially published to. Keep in mind, now it has been stated by advocates of Dankula, I'm not 100% sure on this, but it was stated that he had around 7 or maybe even 10 subscribers when he initially made this video. So his initial reach, very, very low. Now when these other news organizations publish the exact same video in its entirety, they have audiences that can reach the millions or larger, especially when it comes to subscribers. So one of the questions that I thought would be prudent, especially with the officers saying that they do have to take these crimes seriously, is what about what Dankula did makes the crime on him and not on the media companies? Why is it that a media company is allowed to play the same video in its entirety when they consider that video to be a hate crime? If they're saying they need to limit offensive speech and prevent people from doing this, you would think that in the 2 years that these videos had been live on the web to millions of people, they would have ordered the media organizations to take them down or taken some action against them, but they didn't. So then I guess the question is, if it's not the publishing of the video, because we're seeing some instances where publishing the video is fine, is it the act of saying this? But in that case, Dankula said this in his private home. So the further question, is it illegal in the UK to say something in your own home if someone else films you saying, if someone finds out you said something hateful in your own home? I think the reasonable answer is the context and the fact that it's a combination of all the factors, that he said this, that he uploaded it, is why they went after him. But I certainly think when you break down the issue logically, you will find there are a lot of pitfalls to this argument as to why what Dankula did should be a crime. Yet at the same time, they allow the same message to be played over and over again by other people, by large news organizations. So I guess my question is, what is the goal of prosecuting Dankula? Is it to prevent this speech in the future? If that was the case, you'd think they wouldn't allow media companies to upload their own versions of this video. And not only that, but to profit off of the video, because these videos weren't put on YouTube. The media companies uploaded them to their own proprietary servers that serve ads, and they make money off of it. So it is a very complicated question. Obviously, I think it's an issue of Dankula's the one who said it, but I have to wonder why, if it is illegal to display this kind of language, the media companies are allowed to do it. It is what it is. So there's a lot of different little speeches happening all over here at the Leicester Square, and they're supposed to be, relatively soon, marching in silence. They have gaffer's tape that's being handed out to everybody. They're going to cover their mouths, and then they're going to start marching. I do find it interesting. I also want to point out when the one individual said that he saw Antifa shaking hands with police, another man said that doesn't mean anything, and then he shook the officer's hand, and I'm like, that rings personal for me, because I have sat down with all sides. I've sat down with Brazilian gang leaders, drug dealers, Soviet generals. I've shaken the hands of many of these people that others would find deplorable, be it a police officer that people like or a former Soviet general that people don't like. And it doesn't mean you support them in any way. It means you're presenting essentially a greeting of respect, that I'm here on friendly terms to better understand you. Let's talk. Doesn't mean I agree with you. Unfortunately, I tried tweeting out the link to this, and I can't actually type out a tweet, so it kind of bums me out. But I was able to tweet just the straight link. But for those that are watching, if you can help out by hitting the thumbs up button, I guess that tells YouTube its channel is good. But I'm gonna hop over to the super chat right now and grab the comments from people that I missed, and read the super chat. Someone recommended I get some bangers and mash. Yeah, absolutely. I love British breakfast. Mushrooms, tomatoes, and beans, so good. Keep up the great work. Thank you for the support. Someone said, for US viewers, those aren't actually police officers. They have no power of arrest. They're kind of like police security guards. And the one when we were talking to, it said liaison officer, I believe. Someone said, thank you for flying down. And someone said, I am Zog. I'm gonna switch back over to the regular comments. And yeah, I'm just gonna be streaming probably for the duration until my hotspot gives out. But I'm also filming some interviews outside of the live stream that I hope to have up by 4 p.m. Eastern time. So, the easiest thing about working in Europe is that I publish my videos every day at 4 p.m. and that's 9 p.m. here. So I have a ton of time, and should be very easy. Can I talk to you on camera?
Yeah.
You're American, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone who you are and what you're doing here?
Hi, I'm Ashton from Ashton Birdie, and I actually flew out here yesterday to support Count Dankula. Obviously, I think what's happening in Europe right now, they have a huge free speech issue to the point where someone could have gone to jail for teaching his dog a trick. And I think Americans really need to pay attention to what's happening in Europe right now, whether it's with immigration, with freedom of speech, with anything really, because all the issues that seem to be happening here in England and the rest of Europe are going to happen in America eventually. And what we're seeing right now is just developing. And I mean, a man almost went to jail for teaching his dog a trick. And America is on the rise to being the same way, where our freedom of speech is in serious danger.
We do have the First Amendment, which sort of gives us a shield from a lot of what's happening here. But
now it's being tampered with hate speech and free speech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like, personally, a lot of what we see in Europe now is kind of a glimpse of the future if we Americans aren't, adamant about preserving rights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Kate Hopkins did an amazing speech in Riverside where she was talking about how we need to protect our Second Amendment because there's no guns here. They're taking away butter knives soon. They're taking away knives off the street, so it's like, how can you protect yourself? Pepper spray is illegal here, and a girl in Denmark was actually imprisoned for having pepper spray when she tried to protect yourself and rapist. So everything that's happening in Europe right now, infringing on their rights, is happening to us slowly but surely. We really need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for talking. So I recognized her, Ashton Birdie, because I was pretty sure she's American, and I found it interesting. You know, obviously, for those that are watching, you know that I absolutely support free expression. The First Amendment enshrines so many important values and rights: the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, the freedom of religion. And so, make no mistake. While I certainly don't agree with a lot of the politics of the people here, if we're going to talk about the right to free speech, I'm 100% on board. However, I actually didn't even know this was happening. I thought this was actually happening in Scotland. So I wouldn't say I'm here in the same capacity as someone like Ashton, but I did find it interesting that there would be an American who wanted to come down and show support.
Remember me?
From the thing with Sargon a while ago?
Well enough that I should apologise, but I apologise for being a drunken twat last time I met you.
Oh, right on.
Anyway, you have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, man.
There actually is a protest in Scotland too right now.
Oh, really? Hey,
yeah.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah, I thought it was all happening up in Scotland. I was going to come down and hang out with Sargon to have a conversation about it, and then, yeah, here you are.
There was a third one somewhere in the country, but not sure who that was organized by.
I'm gonna carry the sign. Nice meeting you, man. I see a sign here that I want to read because it's got countries where comedians can be sent to jail for a joke. That's weird. Let's see. When I first arrived, I was told that there were suspected counter-protesters scouting out the area. I will say I did see somebody who looked rather angry walking around, and then they left abruptly. So they, navigated the crowd, looked around, had a kind of frumpy face, and so I'm curious if there are counter-protesters who are planning on showing up. But I think aside from people are, so there's the Gadsden flag. People are going to see the Gadsden flag, and they associate that with American colonialism or Southern, white supremacy or something like that. The Gadsden flag, it's just like a libertarian. Don't tread on me. It's that simple. And there's a lot of. I went out to a shooting range with hackers, and the hackers flew the flag and didn't. They use it in its original context, but it's actually when people make cartoons, when people make comments about white supremacy, they use that flag because apparently there are a lot of people that they accuse of being Nazis who also like using a libertarian symbol. I also want to point out the difference between big L libertarian and little L libertarian. So there's a lot of people who associate all libertarians with right-wing libertarianism, and that's not accurate. You can be a libertarian without believing in specific policies or agreeing with a political party. But I will point out the Keck flag, because that is absolutely it's an ironic Nazi symbol. You've got the clovers on the top left, you've got the symbol, the whole flag is sort of a mockery of a Nazi flag. And if you were to ask me, I would say it's like ironic. It's mocking it essentially. It's a complicated issue that I don't want to muddy up, so I definitely will grab someone and talk to them about it in a minute. But the reason I'm pointing it out is that when you see these flags, these rallies, these are absolutely used by people on the left to say these people are Nazis. They do support it, and they're using this flag as a way to dog whistle to Nazis. I absolutely don't think that's true. I certainly believe that there are white supremacists and neo-Nazis who do use that flag, but as I've explained to many people, you can't make milk a symbol of white supremacy. If you allow actual neo-Nazis the right to claim that milk is a symbol, you take milk away from the 99.9% of people who actually drink it. Just because there's a large group of people who, just because there's a few Nazis who fly this flag, when most people who fly it aren't Nazis, doesn't mean everyone flying it is a Nazi. It's important to realize there is so much nuance and complexity as it pertains to what the flags mean to certain individuals and things like that, that it would be disingenuous to imply that simply because someone was flying the flag, they were a white supremacist or Nazi. In fact, many of the people I believe who are associated with it would identify as, for this event, liberalist. And it's, I guess, more of a joke. But don't take my word for it. I will do my best to find someone who can accurately explain the connotations of the Keck flag while avoiding all of this water that is hitting me as I make my way over here.
You see the amount of money he made last night?
Oh, it must have been loads.
He did a dead man
After your
walking.
photo, do you want to explain the Keck flag?
Simple.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Simple.
How's it going, man? Nice to meet you. So, what's the Keck flag, and why does it look like a Nazi flag?
Because it's a parody of the Nazis. I know you can get in trouble for parodying totalitarians these days, but we're brave. We're going to do it anyway. It's actually a parody of identity politics as a whole. The idea of a Kekistani is someone who's an ethnic shit poster, someone who tells jokes on the internet.
Is that all?
That's it.
So, a lot of people, I've talked to journalists, reporters, who have said this is an attempt to dog whistle to Nazis.
No, they hate it. Richard Spencer tweeted out Free Kekistan once, and his subscriber base turned on him.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was quite savage. They was like, no, and it was like, yeah, exactly. Because it's a mockery of them. They don't like it.
How do you feel about left-wing news organizations using that as proof that these people are Nazis, they support it?
It's just a way of them discrediting themselves even further.
I guess, unfortunately, people will believe it, though.
Well, you say that, but there are a lot of people who are in the comment sections and will just laugh at them.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes them look more ridiculous than they already are.
When I was in Barcelona, someone on like the 4th floor of a building, as a march was passing by, started waving it out the window, and the whole group started just got so angry. They started yelling at, I don't know exactly what they were chanting, but they were furious.
Yep.
And the guy who was waving the flag was laughing as hard as he probably could have.
There we go. That's exactly it. It's a sign of mockery and disrespect towards authoritarianism. And
There
that's
you
why
go.
we use it.
Yeah. All right, man. So I guess everyone's heading now to Downing Street, is that it?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, there we go. The silent march. All right, man. I'll see you when we get there.
I actually recognised your voice before I saw
right
you.
on.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Well, you heard it from Carl himself. Not sure if that means he's especially an authority on the issue of Pakistan, but if you want to take his word for it, you've heard it. And obviously, if you go and read many news outlets, they'll allege the exact opposite, that they use the symbol as a dog whistle and things like that. Though I think if you want to truly understand what something like that means, best to hear it from the horse's mouth. So while I understand people are willing to lie to you, I would actually trust an individual who says it's about being a joke, it's a mockery of authoritarianism, more so than somebody who doesn't understand the community trying to claim they know what it is when they haven't actually taken part in these events or things like that. I think you heard what he said. It's a ethnic shit poster. That means there are a lot of people who post things ironically as jokes meant to offend or insult or mock or ridicule or just make a joke, make light. Keeping in mind, there are a lot of people who don't like jokes. In fact, this protest is about Count Dankula, who made a joke and was prosecuted for it, convicted, and now he's facing a 800-pound fine. I will say, there's a couple things you should all consider in what's happening. The government in Scotland arresting Dankula, 2 years of trials, conviction, a fine, amplified his voice to an extreme degree, and in many ways has benefited the cause of free speech. However, it does further precedent that, at least in the UK, specifically in Scotland, you can be convicted for making a joke regardless of the context. And as many people said to me, I have not independently verified, but the proponents say it was the state, it was Scotland who chose to file the complaint. There were no actual complainants seeking this conviction. So it's interesting. Individually, I would say that Dankula has probably been through much more stress than anybody who's ever made a joke deserves. It seems so silly to put someone through 2 years simply for making a video, because people make mistakes and it seems excessive. But they have done a lot to amplify activists for free speech, to activate individuals who support Dankula and will come out in the UK in support of free speech. Streisand effect. By prosecuting a guy who made a joke, you did the opposite of what you wanted to do. We're gonna try and make our way just to the front here because they're laying down street cones. About how far away is it?
The Downing Street is about half a mile.
Should be a nice, pleasant walk. It is so nice out here in London. The temperature, the weather is absolutely fantastic. For those who are interested in getting your London weather report, beautiful, beautiful. So the new camera that I've been using can film at 1,000 frames per second, getting these really amazing shots. It's just really hard to be holding two cameras because pressing buttons is difficult with one hand. So, as I was just told, we're about a half a mile from Downing Street. There's going to be many presentations. I hear that some of these speeches could actually get some people in trouble. The fact that they are protesting the conviction and sentencing of an individual over a joke, it is entirely possible that the speeches they make, as I'm told, could get people in trouble. If a joke can do it, imagine what people are going to say in defense of free speech. I guess there's potential that some people might say things that are provocative in defense of free speech. We'll see.
Free speech, wang around, yeah. Yeah, free speech, wang around, get the microphone. Come on, my brother.
So the way this 1,000 frames per second camera works is that I film for a few seconds, and then it has to actually render the video. It turns 4 seconds into 2.5 minutes. which means I have to wait for it to render the 2.5 minute. So this crowd's actually gotten very large. I'm not, it's always hard to estimate crowd size, but this has got to be over 500. How many people do you think?
About 600.
You think so? I think that's a fair bet. Might be more. It's always, you know, a lot of people underestimate crowd size. So this is pretty big. I was told to expect thousands, but we're not seeing thousands. But
Tommy's in Scotland. If Tommy was here,
yeah,
would have come out.
Yeah. I remember when Tommy had that event about free speech. It was massive.
Fakers Corners, thousands came out for it.
Wow.
It's the power of Tommy.
That's Tommy Robinson. I gotta say, this 1,000 frames per second camera is one of the coolest things ever. It's rather difficult to use, but it has to be configured before I can actually shoot with it, and then if the scene changes, if the focus is bad, it stops working.